Welcome, Cheeky Goddesses. This is Michelle Moss with my partner,
Lauren Mazadonsky.
here with our Cheeky Vibe Peaceful Life. Today we are interviewing a beautiful young woman named Alanna Martella, who is a traffic anchor for an NBC station in Cincinnati, Ohio. She is a multi-Emmy winning journalist who has had an extraordinary journey for being such a young person. And when you hear her story, it's so in line with the things that Lauren and I preach on a day-to-day basis, and just the positivity and the overcoming. So welcome, Alanna. We are so happy to have you here.
And I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So starting off with, how did you end up in Cincinnati, Ohio?
Well, this is my hometown for one. And it had always been my little girl dream to do the news in my hometown, because ever since I was a little girl, I'd wanted to do the news. And I mean, in the broadcast world, you have to start small and work your way up. So I've always had it on my list, I'm going to do this for my family in person in the city that I grew up in, and all my friends, all my family here. And so now I can check that off the bucket list. But yeah, I started off in Rochester, Minnesota. That was my first job in news, it's a very small town in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
The Mayo Clinic is there. So it was a lot of Mayo Clinic stories, because that basically runs the entire town.
Right.
And then I was in Indy, so worked my way a little closer. And then now just about a year ago, I got my job here in Cincinnati. So it's been great.
Well, and it's nice to have that support network when you're in your hometown too.
Absolutely, because I know when I was in Minnesota, my grandma died during that period, and we only got a certain amount of days off, and I could only take one day. It was just quick turnaround to come back for the funeral, and it's just so much better to be near your support circle, for sure.
Right. I saw that you also were an intern at CNN.
Yes. So I, aside from that, I interned here in Cincinnati too. Those were my first internships, but then the AC 360 show in New York City. So I took one of my semesters in college. I spent the year there, or the semester there, interning at CNN, and it was during which election was it? It was the Romney-Obama election.
Okay.
And so that was a really exciting time to be interning at CNN, because we actually got a lot of hands-on experience with it, and really awesome time. And then Hurricane Sandy happened during that period too. Just a lot of interesting news stories that came out during the period that I was interning there.
Yeah, you got your feet wet pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Well, we want to jump in and kind of get a little bit of background and kind of explore how would you say your past has impacted your current life, where you're living and what you're doing?
Yeah. So I guess, should I just dive right into the story?
You can dive right in, because your story is amazing and we want to hear it.
Yeah. So it's really weird to say this, but I'm someone who has died and seen the other side and has been brought back, and not everybody lives to be able to tell this experience. And that is what shaped me to be the person that I am today. Absolutely. Because the person I was before all of it happened is a complete 180 to the person that I am today. And I'll give you a little bit of a backstory of that. So I was obsessed with running. And it all started because, I was never fat growing up, but I was, a little bigger girl in grade school. And my mom and I would start, she would work out with me, because she's very into fitness. She's very petite, very tiny, very toned. So she would work out with me, we'd go rollerblading, we'd go running, and I started to lose weight and see results. And people would, give you the compliments. It's pretty much the way anything goes. That's how the whole cycle goes for people that get in this
or
box.
Getting those strokes about looking
Yes.
good and
yeah. And so I just kept wanting to get that attention more so. So I got really into running and obsessive, to the point that I would wake up at 4:00 in the morning, run before school, go to school, leave school, run again. And I would
Truly
beat myself up.
An obsession.
Yeah.
It was an obsession. Yeah.
Yeah. And, people who are professional athletes, to them, it's good that they do that, because they know how to provide themselves the nutrition. But the thing is I wasn't doing that either. Like I would,
how old were you around this time?
it was in high school. So like my junior and senior
Okay.
year of high school.
Okay.
And, but I wouldn't consume enough for how much I was running by any means. And it got to the
So it
point
started
that the
affecting
compliments, yes. And the compliments started, you know, tapering off and turning more to, hey, are you doing okay? Those types
Are you
of things.
sick?
And
Mhm.
yeah. And I knew that changes had to be made, but I didn't know how to make those changes. Like my body wanted to make the changes because it was so run down and so
How long
burnt
were you
out.
doing that?
Probably I would say about a year or so. And then it just kind of like, whoo, like literally like be careful what you wish for, because I wished for a change and I definitely got that change. But I will say, like, it got to the point that I would skip family vacations and I would skip social activities because I'd be afraid that I'd miss a running session and that all my progress would, you know, go out the window. And, you know, missing a day, missing a week, missing a month isn't going to do anything to you, really. Like,
But
like what
missing
I've learned now.
but missing a vacation or missing a graduation or missing those things would impact you.
Yeah. And now, like, I've like looked back and I'm like, man, I missed all these good times, like building relationships with people, because I was so caught up in this world that I was in, this running world that I'd put myself in. And so as I mentioned, like the day it happened, September 8th, I woke up and did my crazy girl run like normal, went to school, did my second run of the day, and then went to my grandma's house. And she was in a nursing home. And it was there that it felt like my intestines were on fire. And it was like, I would not even want the world's like most tormenting leaders to feel this pain. It was so awful. Like, it felt like my insides were on fire, like everything was bubbling, like I just wanted to lay down. I was super hot. And I thought, you know, maybe I'm hungry. So I was with my dad and he took me to Panera and I went to the bathroom, passed out on the floor.
Wow.
And he was, yeah, and I was taking a long time. So he came in, obviously, and like it's a women's restroom, but he like didn't care. He's like, she's taking forever. And I was passed out on the floor. And a series of events happened that I'm not going to get into right now that led this to continue for a couple of hours. And I remember looking in my bedroom, I was in bed looking out my window. I was like, man, just let me die right now. Like, I remember seeing the moon. I think it was a full moon that night. And I was like, just let me die right now, because it hurts so bad.
So much pain.
And yeah, I like, I can't even explain it. Went to the bathroom again and passed out, and my dad found me again. And I would say now it's probably like 5 a.m. So it had been like a good 12 hours for all of this continuing. And my pulse was racing. He called 911. They rushed me to the ER. And my mom met us there. My parents are divorced and she met us there. And I remember when we got there, she was there. And I thought, you know, I have to pee. And it's like, I'm TMI, but I like through the years, I've learned through ultrasounds that my bladder is smaller than normal. So it's funny now that I'm like through this whole situation, I'm like, I have to pee, like so dumb. And so I went to the bathroom and she helped me because I couldn't hold myself up. And senior in high school, like needing your mom to take you to the bathroom, like literally holding me up. And she said I was just like thrashing about and then just went limp all of a sudden. And I coded. I had actually died at that period. And right as I went limp, lucky for us, the door wasn't locked because she had me in her arms. She wasn't able to lock it. A nurse came in with a urine sample and was like, we're going to need a urine sample. And my mom's like, I think she's dead. And the nurse called a double code and a stretcher came, wheeled me off, and they rushed to save my life. And like I had the death experience, you know, seeing the white light.
Let's process that through specifically, because I have goosebumps from what
I know, I do too. I almost said it, but I didn't want to interrupt her. Oh my God.
So I was walking down a beach and there was a figure next to me in white. And I don't know what belief system anybody has who's watching this right now, but I like to believe it was Jesus, but I never know. I never saw the face. I just saw from down here on down in a white outfit, shrouded outfit. And we just kept walking down the beach towards this big bright light. And as we were walking, it kept getting brighter and brighter. And then towards the end, it kind of gave way, the light gave way, and there was a gateway. And I remember looking in, and my great aunt was behind the gate, and she looked at me with outstretched arms and said, "Come to me, baby." And she was my favorite person in the world. And I remember pushing open the gateway and wanting to go in so badly. And as I pushed the gateway, started to step in, the figure put his arm out and said, "Stop, it's not your time." And then I woke up.
Wow.
And yeah. And then I woke up and there were doctors all around me. I just remember seeing, like, there was a doctor here. There was, like, all around, like, doing all these different things, like, above me. And I looked out forward towards the bed, and my mom, my stepdad, Mark, my mom, and my dad were back there. They were all crying. And in my head, I'm thinking, man, why are they crying? Like, I didn't realize how sick I was. And it was, and so I looked to this doctor that was next to me, and I said, "Hey, am I going to be okay?" And he goes, "We're just going to do the best that we can." And when he said that, I was like, man, this might be it for me. Like, I started thinking of all the things that I wished I would have done, like the things that I've never done before in my life. Like, I'd never gone skydiving. I would never get married. I thought of my mom, because she's, aside from my great aunt, she's my favorite human. And I made a vow to myself then that if I'm able to make it through this, I'm never going to live in the way that I was living before ever again. And
which really you weren't living.
Yeah, no. And that's interesting, because, like, I'm very much into, like, I've been working, like, with some TEDx things, and it's very much one of my through line is the fact that there's a difference between avoiding death and living. And I was avoiding death. I would just go through life avoiding death instead of actually going through the motions, living and experiencing and feeling. And yeah, so I was just going through the motions, not really getting anything out of it, living in a box, like, of repetition, mediocrity. And that was the turning point for me. And it's very interesting that a lot of times, like, when we have our biggest breakdowns, that's when our biggest breakthroughs come through. Exactly. And that was mine. So
totally agree with that.
Yeah. And
I just
recovery.
I want to stop for that for 1 second, then we'll get into your recovery. But I love this thing that when I watched your video and you said, any day could be our last day. And that's kind of what you're referring to, and make each day count. That's that living versus just being in the, being in that box,
It's so cliche that, like, people have, that country song, "Live Like You Were Dying," but it really is so true. Like, if you experience it, it's like I had no idea that day was going to be potentially my last day. And if I would have, bit the bullet that day, I would have nothing to show for myself. And I think that's really kind of what, and not even like show for myself, like, more so like I would not have left any sort of legacy, or, my soul wouldn't be happy, because I never really did anything other than run.
Right.
So now I've kind of made it my mission to just
live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Okay. So
I love that.
Go back to your process of healing and what happened with that.
Yeah. So I had to get an ostomy bag. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but that is, if you don't know what it is, Google it, but I'll explain to the best I can. It's when the tip of your intestine sticks out of your stomach and it goes into a bag. And instead of relieving yourself on the toilet, as traditionally, when you relieve your bowels, it just goes into this bag. And I had one of those. Very humbling experience. I actually, like, I was kind of half joking, but like also serious. Like, I actually asked the doctors to just put me in a coma until I got rid of that thing, because my intestine was so tiny, like so flush, that anytime it would, like, come out, it would leak and it would burn away the skin around, like around the hole, like where it would go in. So aside from having my intestines sticking out, I was burnt all over on my side. And then that the bag is very finicky. It would break, it would, fall off, spilling everything all over me.
How long did you have it?
I had it for about 4 months. So like,
Okay.
thank goodness it was only 4 months, but they didn't know if I was ever going to be able to get it off,
Reverse it.
actually. Yeah. And this is kind of where it goes for the power of positivity. Like my mom and I, we would visualize, and she would hold a pendulum over me every night, a pendulum, and just sit there dangling it and just envisioning, like, we would do anything to make myself heal. And we started taking to this visualization, and they went in for a colonoscopy to see, you know, how the state of my intestines are doing. And when they went in, they saw, like, the issue is that the cilia, the villi and stuff, that it wasn't growing back in my intestines. And then they went in and it had all grown back. So like, you can have your reversal. So
Wow.
I'm like,
Please.
so I had it. Yeah.
Stop.
I also couldn't eat or drink anything. I had a port, and that, you can kind of see the scar right here, like right there.
Wow.
I had a port and in my chest, so I had TPN and lipids, and that made me go into liver failure. Which, fun fact, polar bear bile helps to rejuvenate the liver. So I got these.
Can you wonder where the world they put that together to see if that worked? Because that's
It's
strange.
crazy. I know, like medicine is incredible, and I actually almost went into the medical field from this, but I figured I'll take the easy route. Just kidding. No. But yeah, so so the polar bear bile rejuvenates the liver. You know, I was completely jaundiced, and it fixed it. And then eventually I was able to start adding some foods in. I still have kind of a restricted diet. Like I can't eat fruits. I can't eat vegetables because there's too much fiber in them. Yeah, I pretty much just eat meat and bread, honestly. So very interesting.
How's the scar where your stoma was?
I'll show you all of my scars. How's that sound? Let's see. Here's my stomach scar.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Maybe if I could go like this.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, I have a bunch of like every now and then I will show, my stoma scar. This one is not too bad. I don't know if we can see it.
Yeah. It's what a blessing to have just scars to show instead of the bag, or, you know,
right.
You know, having to have a liver or something done with your liver.
Yeah. And so,
you are definitely needed in this world because, you know, there is some good stuff that needs to be happening for you to be here through all of that.
There's a reason I made it through, for sure. But, well, I'm not sure what that reason is yet, but I'm sure it will be brought forth eventually. So maybe the reason is just to be able to live through this and share with people, you know, you can get through any obstacle if you put your mind to it. And if that's it, that's great. That's wonderful for me. So yeah,
that's beautiful in itself. If that's it, to say that they're, you know, and then giving the hope of living each day, live each day to the fullest, because you just don't know.
And actually, from this experience, I got to make a wish for Make-A-Wish, and now I'm on the Make-A-Wish board. So I help.
I'm going to mention that. I saw that. That's awesome.
So like I have actually, you know, fulfilled that, you know, giving others hope. Some of those kids that are sick, because, you know, a lot of people aren't really familiar that you don't have to be dying to do Make-A-Wish. It's just anybody with a critical illness. And so, you know, a lot of the kids, they'll see, oh, wow, look at her now. Like, I can do this too. Yeah. And
what was your wish?
To shadow Matt Lauer at the Today Show.
Oh my gosh.
Given Matt Lauer's situation, we'll just say it was to shadow the Today Show.
It was?
We'll just say it was to shadow the Today Show because of Matt Lauer and his little issue of the situation.
Yeah, but you actually got to go to the Today Show, and you were all wow,
that's amazing.
Well, and of course that was. Were you always wanting to go into broadcasting? And I mean, was that like a thing from the beginning?
Yeah, so that's my little girl dream, to do the news. So I'm living out my little girl dream, and I remember just growing up and watching the news with my parents and thinking, man, this is what I want to do. And so I just made sure after the death experience, I would do anything to make it happen. So I went to college, and my major was broadcast journalism, and I was an anchor at my college's channel. And then pushed forward, kept going and going and going until I made this home do the news in my hometown dream come true. So
have you done skydiving yet?
I have. Chris took me skydiving. Yeah, about a year ago this time, actually. Yeah.
Oh.
And
Chris is my boyfriend.
I was just gonna say, and who is Chris? And how long have you been with Chris? And tell us that little story.
A little over a year now. So I would say December of 2018. Yeah, that's right. That's the number for 2020 now. And we met. So he did the news down in Miami, and we met through a mutual Instagram account that we both followed. So I was newsflash for Halloween that year of 2018. I wore a newspaper print shirt and put a trench coat over it, and I was newsflash.
Oh, that's
for
cute.
Halloween.
Cute. You just gave our listeners, our cheeky goddesses, something that they'll use maybe next year.
Yeah, it was a hit. People loved it, and it went kind of viral on this news account that we both followed. And then he saw it, followed me, I followed back, and we would chat here and there, and then the rest is history. So yeah.
Okay.
So you guys seem like you have a lot in common with like your business career path and that. So like, how do you guys inspire each other?
He just pushes me to keep wanting to do better, because I feel like he does so much with everything that he, I'm always like, man, like, look at all that he is doing. I can do this. Like, and he encourages me too. Like, he is my biggest cheerleader.
Oh, and that's so important.
Yeah. So he's the one who really helps me to, I just recently started this YouTube channel, and I had been talking about it for a little while, and he's like, come on, we can do it. Like, and like every day he's like, I'm just so proud of you. And it's very sweet. Yes. So we do that for each other.
So what's he do? What's he got going on?
He has a YouTube channel where he interviews pro wrestlers, hence the background here. Mm-hmm. And then he also has a fishing product company called Woo Tungsten, mm-hmm. and they sell tungsten weights, no chip weights. So if you guys are big into fishing, or if anybody's husbands are big into fishing right now, or if they're big into wrestling, check out Chris's YouTube channel and his Woo with an exclamation point tungsten fishing company. And then he also does acting and TV hosting as well. So he started with entertainment news and then just kind of branched off to bet on himself. So
yeah. And what's his YouTube channel under?
Chris Van Vliet.
Van Vliet. Okay, because I didn't think I heard that. Very cool. And that kind of falls into your when you talked before about getting through all that you have and overcoming dying, that healthy lifestyle is important, and you include a mindset, visualization, the support network, which you just talked about, prayer, and starting new dreams. When one ends, you start another dream, and that's not a bad thing. Kind of and a little bit.
Yeah. So, my little girl dream was always to do the news. And then as I continued to grow, I've gotten more dreams that have kind of added onto the list, starting the YouTube channel, writing a book, doing public speaking, and like, I'm still doing the news, obviously, but if people are in a situation in which they don't want to be doing what they're doing and have another dream that they wish, if you quit what you're doing right now and move forward to those other dreams, you're not a quitter at all, actually. Like, you might be stopping what you're currently doing, but you're not a quitter. You're just going to what your true calling is. And the way I look at it is, if you don't pursue like what you feel is your true calling, you're actually doing others a disservice, because you're robbing them of the gifts that you have and that you could be providing them with. So
I love that.
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's the way I look at it.
What about your spirituality? Was this life altering? You were dead and possibly met our maker and saw your aunt who had passed away. And so how does that play out in this current life?
Yeah, I definitely believe in a higher power. I grew up Catholic, so I believe in Jesus. I believe in God, and I should go to church more often. I'll openly admit that, but I'm a firm believer that being a good person in general is better than, sticking to a dead regimented schedule of doing church on Sunday. But I believe in God and Jesus. And I also am a yoga instructor. So I believe that, you know, I don't necessarily believe that like there's a Buddha that rules everybody. But I do believe a lot in those principles that, you know, of that Eastern mindset. And I'm actually taking a Princeton course right now called Buddhism and Modern Psychology, and it's fascinating.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
yeah, and like learning a lot about that, and it goes a lot in line with what the yoga teachings are as well, through what I learned with my yoga teacher training. And so I think I'm very like fluid when it comes to religion, but I do still like maintain that there is a God, that there is God. Yeah.
And when you talk about yoga and stuff, that's like the mindfulness. Do you do a lot of mindfulness and visual? You said visualization, but you know, we're big on that too. The relaxation, guided imagery, muscle relaxation, all of that stuff. So do you utilize that pretty regularly in tandem with your yoga, or?
I do, yeah. And you know, everybody, and it's like it's a continuous journey for everybody. You know, I'm not going to go and say like every moment I'm living just for this moment right now. Like it's a cycle for everybody. And like I just try to take a step back if like a situation is thrown at me in which I'm looking like towards the past or looking towards the future. Just remember, hey, I'm here now. I'm not who I was in the past. I am not who I was in the future. Yeah, they may influence the person that I am and the person I'm becoming, but who I am is right here, right now. And just to continue on through that manner. And like a lot through the yoga, through the course I'm taking right now, there's a lot about meditation, and they're talking, you know, about feelings, and like feelings are impermanent. They come and they go. So if you feel sadness, be okay with it and let it come, let it bounce off you like a wave and then release itself. And I think that has a lot to do with mindfulness as well.
Right. And that's even that self-awareness. When we did our self-series, you know, self-awareness, self-control, and self-care, self-compassion, being aware of those feelings and allowing yourself to feel them. And it's funny that you said it's, you know, and it's genuine to say, I'm not always in the moment. It's hard to, you know, we're not ever going to be actualized to that level. But even Lauren and I, when we did mindfulness a couple of weeks ago for our podcast listeners, and I talked it through, and Lauren said, and what did you say about it, Lauren? It was really hard to.
It was hard. I mean, because that was right when all the stuff happened of being off of work and yeah, trying to just be present.
And you have to keep bringing yourself back into the moment.
I'm not always good at accepting some of those feelings though, too. I can say that. Sometimes I try to pretend it's not there. So I'm just like shoving it all down. So that is definitely something I'm learning, to just accept it and, you know, work through that to get to, you know, a more peaceful mindset.
And it's really hard to, like, even the most seasoned of, you know, people who are meditation practitioners or practitioners, I should say, and the most seasoned yoga teachers, even they like have issues like, you know, overcoming it too. So like if anybody, you know, has been doing this mindfulness practice from what you have been teaching them, don't feel discouraged, because like one day it'll all sink in correctly, but it's not going to happen overnight. So
right. And we're just gonna give a plug for another one that we're doing soon. Nicole Shopner does this Himalayan sound therapy. Have you ever done anything like that, where they use the bowls?
Oh, the sound bowls. Yeah. So we did that a little in our in my yoga teacher training, like the different chakras for the different bowls, like the different sounds. Yeah, I really like the root chakra one, the red with like the deeper sound. Because I also, as I have a lot of digestive issues, the root chakra is the one that I try to keep working on most. Right. But yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about that. I know a lot about the chakras, but the sound stuff, not. I don't have a sound bowl, but I would. They're so expensive.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the one she had was like $3,500. The great big one.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They're so expensive. We bought one for because our yoga teacher who facilitated our training, she had all of them except for, I believe it was the heart chakra. So we got her a really nice one as a group, and it was very expensive. Just
They are. So do you think the things that, overcoming that, dying and coming back and all that, does that give you a different set of coping skills for every other thing? Because, I always say to my clients, life keeps coming. You might get through something, but then there's still death of a loved one, a flat tire, job loss, life comes and comes and comes. So has that given you a skill set that you use?
I would say it has, absolutely. Like for me, that was like the worst trauma I've ever experienced. And so like if anything else happens, which isn't to say that they're less of a trauma, like not to say like my trauma is more traumatic than yours. Like everybody,
death is the biggest trauma. I mean, death is death. I mean, that's
but
permanent.
But I think emotional trauma can be really hard on people. And I think that there should never, like sometimes the mental stuff can be a lot worse than the physical stuff. So it's not really, death is obviously like you're gone, but sometimes living in a mental anguish can be worse. A lot harder. Yeah. Because I know like the physical recovery for me, it was like the physical part, that was the easy part. It was the mental part that was hard to get over. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it's definitely helped me. Like, say something like, in the past, like girls gossiping or stuff, like, try to bring you down. I'd just kind of be like, okay, this really doesn't matter. Like, this isn't, and I found that a lot of people have like come to me for advice for things, like if they're having a tough, troubling time. And I try to help them as best as I can, but it's definitely given me coping skills to learn that, this too shall pass. Find comfort in knowing that, one of my doctors told me this, in the entire puzzle of life, this is just a piece of it. So find comfort in knowing that this too shall pass. And I've held on to that as long as it could go. So anytime like a situation comes, like I think back to what was going on beforehand, and I made it through that. I can make it through this, and namaste, all will be well.
Yeah. So when you say support network and you reach out to friends, and have you ever reached out professionally for, maybe a therapist, because we always like to promote when you've exhausted things in your regular realm, sometimes reaching out to a professional to get that extra help. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I have. So my parents, they got divorced. I saw a professional for that. And this is even before all of this happened. So I saw one like as a child for that. I saw one when I was living in Indy, just because I had a period that I was feeling a little alone. Because right after Minnesota, just like the transfer over, I just felt very weird. I don't know. Like I was still growing at that point. So yeah, I firmly believe in it. I have friends that go see therapists. I recommended it to people before, like, hey, like I love to try to help you, but maybe you should go see someone. And then I relay my experience with it to them. So yeah, and there's no shame. There's no shame in seeing it, because it's bettering yourself. And why wouldn't you want to be the best version of yourself possible?
And we appreciate you saying that, because, we want to make sure, that the stigma, if there is, there still is somewhat, but to say
people are still sometimes afraid to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, I know for a period when I was in India, I was like, should I not? And then, a dear friend of mine she gave me her therapist to see, and I'm glad that I did it. It definitely made a huge difference. And then from there, and then my yoga teacher training, I decided to finally delve into that. And I think that really helped as well.
So are you teaching, or are you using that like on your YouTube? Like what are you doing with your yoga?
It's for friends, like if friends or anybody needs any, want me to do a class for them, I'll do it, just private stuff. So I usually just do it for free for friends. So I don't teach at a studio or anything. Maybe eventually I would like to do that, but I just feel like I would be adding a lot onto my plate if I did that with, the news and stuff. So I don't want to commit to a time slot and then breaking news happen, and then I be like, sorry, can't teach the class today. So, yeah, I just do it as as people ask.
And
I would like to go to inner city schools and maybe do like free yoga for some of the kids there, because especially with this situation that's going on with the COVID-19, as we see a lot of people are very uncertain right now. It's a very uncertain time. And if kids learn from a young age how to, you know, breathe and control, because that's one of the few things you can control is your breath. Maybe it will help them when situations are thrown their way. So
and that might even evolve, because a lot of schools have been starting to have mindfulness rooms where they can go and just relax, and there's tranquil music and maybe doing some yoga, but with everything, as you're saying, even more, you know, that might lead to more of that. Absolutely. So how often, well, I know we can't work out right now because the gyms are all closed, but are you still into exercise and athleticism?
Yeah, I bought some kettlebells and I've been doing home workouts, and I do a little bit of yoga every day, like even if it's just stretching, just try to get some sort of movement in. So I've been continuing doing it, and you know, and for people who are listening who aren't continuing doing their exercise regimen, that's completely fine. I know people who have decided, hey, this is the universe's way of telling me I need a break. And so that's awesome too. So whatever your calling is, whatever team you're on, good, like do it,
whatever's best for the person.
Do
you find, you know, you had a little bit of addictive personality with that running? Is that a part of who you are? You know, did you notice that in other realms of your life?
I think I've always had a little bit of like OCD type addictive stuff with that, but it was more so the running. Like now, like I think with my experience with my death, and then also with the yoga teacher training, like it's
healthy boundaries.
Yeah. Like if I miss a day or like a week or more working out, I'm not going to beat myself up over it. And I eat meat and like whatever I'm allowed to eat with my stuff, I'm fine with that. So it's just, it goes back to, I know what I was doing to myself before. And I would, if I could go back and rewind it, I totally would, because it's completely unhealthy. And it all just comes back to mindset, really. Anything you put your mind to, or like, that's, you know, that's another cliche thing to say, you can do it. Like if you're going to be as good as you want to be, you're going to be as bad as you want to be. Thoughts become things. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I get that. Do you want to say anything else, Lauren? Because I mean, I've exhausted my, you know, stuff. If there's anything I kind of jumped in, you know, go ahead.
I did take some notes. Honestly, well, the one other thing I did like to, when you said people over paycheck in one of your YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Right? Okay. That was on YouTube. I'm like, I was trying to, you know, see what, just from, we only chatted a while ago. So I was like, ooh, I got to see what else she has out there. But I just was interested in how you like apply that into your life, because I know you are so busy.
Well, a lot of it, like for me, like for the Make-A-Wish, for example, I was just the MC of their gala. And, you know, like if I have these opportunities thrown at me, I'll just do it because I know it'll impact people. And it's not about the money. It's not about, you know, getting, you know, a financial gain or accolades about it. It's just because when you're doing it, you will, you know, impact at least one person. You'll change one person's life by helping give back. And so I always look at it that way. The way that, like, my mom has always told me, the more you give, the more you'll get back. And if you're doing things that you love and that you're passionate about, the money will come eventually. And so, you know, I just do things from the goodness of my heart. And if I don't make any, like, you know, people over paycheck is basically all it comes down to. Like, value that over any monetary gain.
Right. Even the connections that we've made for doing our podcast, whether it was Tracy Schmidt, who we interviewed yesterday, or getting to meet Stephanie Haney, or getting to meet Alanna, you know, it's awesome to make these friends and get to know people and share stories with like-minded individuals. So I guess my last question would be then, what advice do you have for our cheeky goddesses out there? Some words of wisdom.
Enjoy life. Yeah. Enjoy life. To quote Maya Angelou, life loves the liver of it. And live it while you have the chance, because you know, when you're in those final moments, your life does flash before your eyes. And give yourself something to look back on and smile, sans regret, and know that you did everything you could to make your life as impactful and as beautiful as you could make it. Make your life your art.
Perfect. And that's a great,
I love
great
that.
way to end our interview. We so appreciate that you were here, and we're able to share your story of dying and living, and how life has just take on this new meaning since you've been on that other side, and just a passion for everything. I love it. It's great. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, this has been wonderful.
Yeah, we wish you good luck if this is where you're going to stay, or if there's, you know, the next dream happens, and we can't wait to follow along and see where that takes you, for sure.
We'll be in contact.
I hope so. I hope so. I'd love to see you in real life, you know, personally. So we look forward to that someday. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.